Hi, it's Wednesday, and it is time for another Business Analysis Live. My name is Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the International Institute of Business Analysis. We call it IIBA. I'm so glad that you guys could join us today. You know, we're live, and that's what makes this forum really fun because we get to talk with our guests, and you guys also get to ask our guest questions. It's not just me. But today, I not only have a guest, but I have a guest co host. So let me tell you what we're going to talk about today: navigating a strategy change. Now, think about this for a second. It's 2025. You've got your organization or your department or your team's goals ready to go. You're ready to hit the ground running. And then suddenly something changes: a change in leadership, a change in the market, heck, a pandemic. We've been there. We know how that can really change things. And today, the guest that we're going to be talking to has had that happen and wants to share some of the stories of that and also how they were able to respond. And I think that's gonna resonate for a lot of you out there. And I am excited because today I have a guest co-host that's going to join me for this conversation. So I'm bringing up on stage Koketso Chaba. Hello, Koketso. You're our partner manager in the Africa and Middle East region. You've actually been a guest on Business Analysis Live. So hello and welcome.
Hi, Susan. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Of course, speaking of change, Susan, you said I have been a guest before, right? So the change for me here is that I've done quite a lot of these with you, but this is the first live session I'm actually doing with you. So I'm hoping that
That's
I'll
right.
be
You
doing
you've been a
a good enough
recorded
job.
guest. That's
Yeah,
right. You've
yeah,
been a
yeah.
recorded guest,
Yeah.
and so, but you're going to be great. You're going to be
Ah,
great.
no, definitely. So, yeah, everybody, my name is Koketso Chaba. I'm actually excited today to be co-hosting the episode with Susan. My role as the partner manager in the Africa and Middle East region is essentially to work very closely with all our current and prospective partners, of course, in growing and strengthening the business analysis community within the Africa and the Middle East regions, right? Within my role, I served obviously to foster collaboration and expanding IIBA's presence in the region, and obviously working very closely with the likes of our guest here today to ensure that obviously they are provided with the relevant resources within the community, and most importantly, having these types of conversations with the rest of our community at large. So thank you very much for having me today, Susan.
Yes, and one of the things that I mentioned to our partner managers, because they are all, let me tell you something, not only are they all talented, but they are all incredibly charismatic. So they are front of camera kinds of folks, all of them. But I said, Um, if you have somebody in your region who has an interesting story to tell, one, invite them. Also, you get to be the guest co host. And so that's how Koketso is with us today. And with that, let's bring on our guest. Because she is a close partner with IIBA and also with you there in South Africa. So, hey, Wilna, how are you?
Hi, Susan. Hi, Koketso. I'm very well, thank you, Susan, and nice to be here.
Yes, I know that I've actually had an opportunity to meet you in person, which is fantastic. Also, I just want to point out this blanket that's behind me. Wilna gave me that when I met her, and I love that. So I keep that right behind me.
It's a
Wilna, why don't you
Guinea
tell folks
pattern.
a little
It's
bit about
famous
yourself?
in South Africa, the Guinea pattern. Yeah. Um. So yes, I mean, funny. I think I speak to many BAs as well, not just in our company, but in South Africa and actually throughout the world through LinkedIn and contacts I've made at the IIBA. And I studied industrial psychology.
Hmm.
And I started working as in a human resources department, and somehow I ended up in finance, and I did a lot of the finances those years manually, And I said to my manager, we can't continue to do this manually. And he said to me, well, write down what you want and we'll see if someone can build it for us. And I wrote down what I wanted. And there were some comments that this was the best spec they've ever seen. And I thought, oh, it's called a spec. And then I learned by chance that there's a role called business analysis. And I was hooked. So my business analysis career started way back in 1999. And yeah, so a lot of BAs, I believe, just become a BA by chance.
Yep.
And I think that's why I'm so passionate about business analysis. And I joined Nedbank 11 years ago now. And I've been actively working in the Center of Excellence since beginning 2014. So it's like, that's the period that I've been in our Center of Excellence.
Yeah, by the way, we sometimes joke that BA really stands for by accident, because that's how so many of us end up in the profession. Yeah. Well, boy, so there is a lot there that you have just said. And actually, we're going to dive into some of what you have just talked about today. But first, I just want to remind our guest, we're going to be talking about navigating a strategy change. We don't necessarily need to talk about what the change is, but as you might imagine, as Wilna is the manager of the Center of Excellence at her company, that Center of Excellence is playing a pretty important role. And so maybe before we talk about how the Center of Excellence is part of the changes that are happening, maybe we just do a quick definition. So we've said Center of Excellence. Sometimes today you might hear us say COE, and that's what we're talking about. Tell us a little bit about Center of Excellence. Maybe tell us a little bit about your Center of Excellence.
Okay, so our Business Analysis Center of Excellence is part of what we call in Nedbank, our chapter is called Enterprise Process Engineering and Business Analysis. And we report to Kums Naidu, and I believe Kums is also very well known amongst the BA community. So, privileged to work for a leader that really sets us up for success. So I've got a counterpart that's running with our Process Engineering Center of Excellence. And really the Center of Excellence is there to ensure that our BA discipline grows and evolves, that we follow standards, that we have practices in place. And we'll get a little bit later on when some people say, oh, standards, template junkies or whatever. We'll get there. But it's important, our relationship with the IIBA is so important because, it's a going on 22 years old organization with lots and lots of collateral and really experts that we can network with. So setting up the practices, setting up the standards is one part of the role. But another part of the role is also to look at what we call that job family. The job family of process and business analysis. And that entails making sure that our job profiles are fit for purpose and that they are relevant for the environment in which we work in today's world. We assess our people. We've got a world-class assessment tool where we assess people's skills. We also give our people an opportunity to self-assess. Sometimes people are a bit modest and they say they just advance when they're actually expert, vice versa. So we get a balanced view, I believe, of people's skills. And then we map each individual's skills to their job profile. So we have BA 1, 2, and 3, where 3 is a senior, and then we have BA specialists. And we've got a job profile, again, based on the IIBA competency model. And for each of the 6 knowledge areas, plus perspectives, plus agile techniques, agility, etc., we test their skills. And we then identify for each person what their unique learning path is, which I think really sets us apart. Because we don't have a blanket training for all. If you're competent in the area, we don't train you because you don't need it. We train you in what you need. So that's a big part of our job, and that's a big part of all of our passion. And then the other part that relates to how our strategy in the COE had to pivot very quickly, is that we really employ experts in the field of business analysis. They're really all-rounder. They're good at business analysis practices. They have the right soft skills. They have the right stakeholder management, writing skills, etc. So, training, making sure now that people are future fit. So constantly doing research, constantly having conversations with KK, with yourself, with other people in the IIBA, finding out what the next trends are, how must we pivot to ensure that we are, and we're very competitive, so we'd like to stay ahead of the trends. We want to be, if there's a trend, we want to sort of almost have it in place already when it's published. And again, that partnership, just enables us so much. So really, it's the go-to person or the go-to place where BAs feel safe, and they feel that, we understand what they're going through and that we can help them with their specific needs. And another part of the COE is we have a lot of analytics. We can tell you about each individual's skills, about the quality of their work, about the quality of their BA deliverables, their user stories. We can tell you what training they've been on, what certifications they have, where the gaps in their profiles are. So we really know, we have data that helps us know our BAs very, very well. And then the other portion, of course, is that we partner with managers of BAs, and then we work with them to identify where are the gaps, where are the risks within their team, both from an individual BA perspective as well as from the project. Which project? Because a project could be at risk and it's not necessarily the BA's fault. Maybe it's everybody else. And we help identify that. We can say, no, but this BA is spot on. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're pushing back on the right items. So it's a very, I always say that I love my job because it's so varied. If I feel like doing research, if I feel like designing a new infographic, if I feel like we're going to have a really nice BA community of practice event, or I feel like writing a newsletter, and then, we build new templates and guidelines, etc. So it's so varied. But then you also have that people contact, which is so important.
Yeah. When I hear you describe that, and actually you and some of your team have been speakers at some of our webinars where you've shared some of your secrets about your Center of Excellence, like the metrics, like how you're able to help train and upskill your staff. Whenever you talk about it, first, I have to tell you, it is, I've been around, and it is probably the most sophisticated example of the Center of Excellence I've ever heard of, because you really are down at the people level, helping to identify talent, build your talent, and really have them ready to go wherever your organization wants to go. So I think it sounds like strategy change is like a big nothing burger for you guys, because you've got not just this Center of Excellence. You were saying that actually you've got other centers of excellence for other disciplines in your organization. So it really sounds like strategy is, this is how you adapt to any kind of strategy.
What's important about the other centers of excellence, so for example, business architecture, process engineering, I've mentioned, design, our developers, our testers, they all have centers of excellence, and the role is more or less the same. Although in the maturity curve, some of them are probably still at the informal stage where they just have community of practice events. Others are maybe higher up on that maturity curve. But it's also very important that I collaborate with them often, because as soon as we align and we agree, okay, that's the the business architect's role. This is the business analyst's role. This is the role that maybe an architect can fulfill in business analysis, vice versa. We can say, okay, now we remove duplication, we remove rework, there's a smooth handover. And because we understand each other's centers of excellence, practices, standards, we become advocates for each other. You know, so we have each other's backs because we often collaborate and work together. And then I'm in the position where I can advise others how to set up their COEs. You know, we've been on a journey to set up a product ownership center of excellence, and I was able to give them a lot of input. And also what we are doing now, when we build our analytics, we build it for anyone in the bank to use. So if there's someone in the bank that did another assessment that's part of this tool that I spoke about, we could easily include them into our robot that actually schedules the assessments, gets the results, updates our Power BI, and the AI that we use for proctoring. And that's part of the big strategy change last year that we just simply had to do. So we're not just setting up for BAs. We actually scale it so that anyone can add, you know, our analytics for our BA demographics. Who are they? Where are they in the business? Who do they report to? How many years of service do they have? What certifications they have? That's open to anyone. Anyone that's on our SAP system as an employee, we could report on. And that's how COEs help each other as well. Yep. And I think the future is will help each other even more.
Yeah.
No, I love that. But I think I just want to focus on one key item here, Wilna, right? It's a complementary of roles, as you mentioned. You've got process analysts, you've got business analysts, and then it's within the context of continuous change, right? As a center of excellence, you've built these standards, and you also, you know, obviously working together with other complementary functions as well. What I'm trying to actually understand with the context, specifically with regards to change, how are you able to ensure that continuously your business analysts? Yes, I know you mentioned the fact that there's training that's continuously going on, right? How do you then bring in, you know, sort of the right talent when this change is also going on as well? And then how do you also ensure that, you know, all of your business analysts, you know, adapt to this change as it's happening? Considering, number one, you know, the change element from an enterprise point of view, as well as, you know, obviously how other functions are adapting to the change in the organization.
I think, firstly, anything that doesn't come from the top down is very difficult to make a success of it. And we've got a brilliant CIO. I just think he's like really very clever. And that the mindset that he has filters down to like Koems's level, you know. And that's why he's that dynamic leader that help us and enable us. And, you know, he never says no to a good idea. And we can try things out and see if it works. Like last year, we tried to do like hackathons for recruitment. So how do we get our talent? We invite a whole lot of people for 3 hours. They come into our offices. We have a fun, upbeat area where we sit them down. It's not a typical formal interview setting. There's flowers on the tables, etc. And we interview them. And then, you know, we find talent, we shortlist them, we send them through our assessments. We look at the assessment, the results. Now, nowhere in the process do we say hard stop, unless if there's no strengths or proficiencies, obviously we're not going to waste time to interview somebody. But if we see potential there, we see potential in maybe they have the certification we're looking for, maybe they studied at the right university, and I mean some universities partner with you guys, so you know they're sort of a go-to place as well, because we've seen the BAs we've appointed from them do really well. So we've got the aspect where we actively recruit all the time, and then all the managers of BAs that report into Koems, when they recruit, they see, could this person be a fit for a COE? Or when I recruit, I think maybe they're not a fit for a COE, but they may be great in a specific domain area. So we don't just interview for our role and the demand that we have right now. The assessments do help a lot because for us, foundational skills is so important. You cannot be successful if you don't have those foundational skills. I always say you can't call someone a chartered accountant by giving them a calculator. They need to know accounting principles. And then when you give them a calculator or financial tool, they succeed. We do the assessments, we do the bulk recruitment, we do individual recruitments. What we usually do is set up an informal coffee chat, make the person feel welcome. So the managers would set up that informal coffee chat. When that person goes through on a short list, then I sit in on the interview. And I think sometimes I scare people a little bit. But when I do, I often give them tips. I often tell them, don't forget about the training you've done at an endorsed provider. Go and look at your manuals again, or become a member of the IIBA. Or I give them tips. I've even on occasion where I thought someone really has potential, but they're not a fit for our role, said, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll coach you on the side. I'll help you become a BA, because I think it's the best job in the world. And then we have Nedbank again, and it comes from leadership. Our leaders are passionate about youth employment. It's a big thing that actually our president in South Africa started. And we've got 2 people now in the Center of Excellence that are doing amazingly well, that are youngsters. They're 22, 23 years old. But we got them through this funnel of the youth employment scheme. And there's a couple of other vendors that do similar work. So we always open to take people with no experience, but the right attitude and a growth mindset. And then we take them and we teach them. So Nedbank also is big on growing their employees. It is such a privilege to work for an organization that looks after you holistically. It's not just work performed. They care about you as a person. They care about your mental health. They care about your physical health. So, again, they've opened up LinkedIn Learning for us. Other e-learning tools is available for us. In the beginning of the year, we go through and we see who needs what skills. So that's also a role that I play in the COE. With all the analytics I have now to my disposal, I can say these guys need AAC. Those guys need to go on data analytics. Watch the space. This year, hopefully, we're going to send a lot of people to certify in data analytics, cybersecurity. So we point out, so people can say, I want to do flower arranging. And if there's a flower arranging course in LinkedIn, they can do it in their own time. We never say no to that. But we're not going to pay for your flower arranging. Pay for the IIBA endorsed partner. That training we're going to pay for. And we've got such a close relationship with the endorsed education provider. They understand our business. They understand and know me very well. They know what we're looking for. And the benefit in that, also for a COE, if you foster those external relationships, is that when they train our staff, and we never have a Nedbank exclusive group, we always say go in a general group where all other employees from other companies are as well, because they come back and they appreciate what we have to offer. And other people think, Nedbank is an employer of choice because of the way our people show up in that course. But also our education partner knows Nedbank's ways of working. So they can make it practical. They can make the training practical for our BAs because we have that close relationship. So networking across your organization, but also with your partners, is so important for your COE to be successful.
Here's what I'm
people. Sorry,
that's quite all right.
Always, I tell you, sometimes, if I may say that, sometimes I think, not again. That people contact me, Wilna, I'm so and so in the bank, but I want to become a BA. Wilna, I'm doing this in the bank, but I want to become a BA. And we accommodate them. We assess them, we assess their gaps, we give them individual learning paths, we hold their hands on the journey. So even we find our talent in Nedbank.
Now listen, I can tell that you are passionate about this center of
Yeah,
excellence.
yeah,
That's
very,
that's not
no
even an
doubt,
understatement.
no doubt.
And 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 I think you've got a lot to be proud of here. And for those folks who came for the navigating a strategy change conversation and might be
Mm,
thinking, why are we talking about a center of excellence? I'm going
mm,
to tell you, Wilna, what I am taking away from this, and I do think it speaks to the values of Nedbank, which is that your center of excellence and your organization focuses on the skills and talent and motivation of its team members, of its employees, and you invest a lot in developing them.
mm,
That change at a strategy level, the reason that you are able to navigate it is because you can very quickly get to the people level of what's going to change,
mm,
so that you through that center of excellence you are able to, and it's your center of excellence to the center of excellence where you guys meet, where you are able to understand the changes that are coming and quickly map it to even specific people, not even just specific teams or projects, but specific people
mm,
who can either be, immediately, sent over to work on something. And you also can put together a plan for, and how do we get the rest of these folks ready to also participate in that. So I see the center of excellence as being very clearly the thing that helps to align that strategy to, now what do the people need to do in order to
mm,
implement that change.
mm,
So I think that is why you are so proud of it, because you can do that. But more than that, it speaks to, right, a lot of times change gets inflicted on us. And the center of excellence actually gives lots of opportunities for people to not have to feel that pain,
mm,
because you're like, okay, here are the things that we need to do. Here's the training, here's the projects, here's and people have some certainty about how they will be impacted. That's just
mm,
my takeaway
mm.
from what I'm hearing. But I think those are some real keys to navigating any kind of change.
Can I quickly give you how our strategy changed?
Okay.
So, I mean, in the beginning, I explained what our role is, what a COE does, etc.
Mm,
So, at the beginning of every year, obviously, each organization has a strategy. GT has to align to that strategy. Everybody working in GT has to align to that strategy. And it's always about client experience, digital, and employee experience. So, we definitely employee experience is part of that triangle. Um, and we, at the beginning of last year, had a typical strategy session, and we were going to partner, and we're a small team. We're 9 people, and we've got close to 300 BAs that we look after. Each person had a role, so each BA specialist would partner with a couple of managers and help them and handhold and give them information and coach and mentor their staff. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, it was decided that some of our projects needed to be expedited
Oh.
just because we're going to be to market. And guess who they came to find the best BAs? They took all 3 specialists away, and they went to work on business projects,
yeah,
really high tech stuff that the bank has never tried, the methodologies that the bank has never tried. And this brings it back to what I said earlier about foundational skills. Um, my staff were so good at their foundational skills, they hit the ground running. I mean, one of the projects where it's completely new, they came in ahead of budget and time. Something else that was really very complex and no one could make sense of it. One of my employees went in there, and within a week or two, she had everything under control. The other one is a big rollout into Africa, many countries, many different legislations, etc. My problem is they don't want to give my stuff back.
The
So what
curse
I
of
had to
competency.
do, what I had to do last year, change my strategy, was focus on our data. Focus on the data. Um, and make sure we've got all the analytics real time. A BA can look at their own data and benchmark them against their peers in the bank to see if they're leading or lagging. And it gave us, because I didn't have people who could go and see, oh, how's it going in your project? What problems do you have? Play that nice role. We didn't have that. I had to solely rely on my data. So that was the big strategy change last year. Now, this year, I'm still fighting to get my staff back. I mean, it's so nice to be able to say, they nailed it, they did it. And they trusted and respected. And now our business are coming to us to say, listen, there's this special type of thing that we want to do. So now we're moving up to that 5th stage of maturity where we're optimizing. And people are now coming to us and say, we have a specific piece of work. So again, now this year, our strategy is pivoting again. Because instead of going back to saying, oh, how can we help you? Here's your data. Let me coach you. Now we're starting to do specific projects for the bank that will become assets, that will come back into the Center of Excellence practices, that we can bed down and say to our BAs, these are now the future fit skills you need. This is now the new skills you need to be multi-skilled, etc. So it was really pivoting, but you just have to have that creative mind to think, oh my goodness, am I going to sit back and say, oh, I can't do anything, you took my staff away? Yeah. Or can I say, what else can I do? Yeah. That will be up to you.
But, by the way, I know Philippe Hendricks, I think, is in the audience today. And if he were on the stage with us, he would probably say that that Nedbank is a nimble organization because you are able to quickly sense and respond to change.
Sure.
Which is, I think, another real asset that you have in the Center of Excellence is that nimbleness. And
also we don't, I always say to my staff, I happen to be the leader, but we're all leaders. And they're so well trained and they've got a growth mindset and they've got so much resilience that I can trust any one of them to go and run a project. And lastly, how our strategy changed, and that will continue this year. Because I didn't have my own staff last year, I asked for volunteers within our team to say, please, who would like to help me with this initiative? And boy, did I get good people. People that I just trusted. I trained them a little bit. We went through some training, and I trusted them, and I checked in regularly, and they got the work done, peer to peer. So it's a BA telling a BA. It's not the Center of Excellence telling you, use this template. It's a BA on a project telling another BA, this is the best template because of this way. And we're going to continue that this year because now we're giving a much bigger audience of our BAs opportunity to also lead initiatives. And they become advocates. So actually, I've got a Center of Excellence, but I've got a bigger circle of network. That we use now. So that's also how our strategy changed and had to change quickly.
Yeah. Koketso, did you want to ask one more question? We have a couple of questions today.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get to that, to say, I think maybe let's give the audience a bit of a chance to ask some of the questions as well. Because I mean, you and I can have the whole day to ask questions to Wilna as well.
I'll talk the whole day about this.
I know that you can because you're doing some amazing things. Well, I just want to remind our audience we are live and we are taking your questions. Thanks for the couple that we have, but drop your questions in if you've got them. Okay, so this is our first question from Hazra. What is one important factor when managing business analysis talents that are doing a strategy change? So something that you might have learned through the different strategy changes about managing the folks.
I think the first one is foundational skills. Comes back to foundational skills. Maybe make sure that when they in a pressurized situation. I mean, if there's a glass full of water, if you bump it, water's going to spill. So make sure they're full of their foundational skills, so that when there's pressure and change, and they feel uncertain, they have those foundationals to fall back on. And then make sure that your staff, that you equip them with emotional intelligence. self-awareness, to manage stress, negotiate, and make sure that they feel psychologically safe.
Oh, those are good ones. Yeah, because
Yep.
change can bring up a lot of things for people that is not even just about the work, but it can bring up other
Yeah.
changes. So
And to,
making
to
folks feel safe is important.
and to communicate and be authentic and truthful, you know, um, to have that ongoing support, be close to your people, have an open door. Um, anyone, we don't work according to my staff can't go speak to Kums directly. Of course they can. I mean, he welcomes that. So to have that leadership support as well, and to know that people feel secure and safe to go to him with any problem they have, and their manager won't be angry with them or say, "Why don't you come to me?" That's not how we work.
Right.
There's that supportive culture, and again, it comes from the top.
Excellent. All right. So we've got another question here from Odisha. What techniques can you reinforce to get stakeholders on board with that strategy change or the continuous improvement? Again, change is hard for some people.
Mm.
What are things that you guys are doing, or even maybe what are some of the skills that are important for your business analysis professionals in getting stakeholders aligned?
Mm. I think to have to have enough trust in your ability as a BA to have a really structured conversation with your stakeholders. Don't don't allow them to just run loose and they start talking all over the place and whatever. I've been in a session recently where the conversation was very unstructured. And at the end of the meeting, you still feel you got nowhere. And again, that comes back to foundational knowledge. And some of there's some techniques that I always fall back on. I always fall back on a data flow diagram or context diagram or a use case diagram because a picture does tell 1,000 words. But as a BA, it's about what value business see will they get. Business doesn't care if you do a stakeholder matrix or not. They want software to be commercialized so that they can make money. So the things you have to do as a BA to get to the point where you are sure that you've spoken to all the stakeholders is something you have to do almost in the background. And when you speak to stakeholders, it must be about what will be the value for them to have a BA on board. And I think the example and there's many such examples, we have 87% of our BAs were rated by their senior stakeholders as really performing or even exceeding their expectations.
Oh, wow.
87%. So, setting them up for success, and again, being transparent, communicate, tell them what you know. And for us in the COE, we always need to almost make sure that we're that step ahead, that we are well informed, and our leaders do that. They keep us well informed. And I think that makes it easier. There's always uncertainty. But I think if you just show the value of business analysis and show the value of the outcomes of your work and not say, oh, they said I must do a data flow diagram. Don't do that. Just use the picture when you converse with them and let them see the value and let them understand that you have those techniques and abilities to add value to them at the end of the day.
Yeah, you said a couple of important things there. Your stakeholders, now I'm paraphrasing, your stakeholders won't care about your technique or your document. I think that's really important because sometimes we get overly concerned with the thing I'm going to produce rather than the conversation or the results that I'm going to produce. That's actually the more important thing. And you need to
Yep.
be seen as there for your stakeholder. That's important. And you're
Yep.
right. That takes confidence. And confidence is built on knowing that you know how to do that work.
Mm.
Foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't see any more questions, but
There's
but
one from Vipin. I hope
Pin
I.
is asking a question there as well.
oh,
Yeah.
this one here.
Yeah.
So I think Vipin's question is it good to transition a BA to, I'm guessing by SM we mean Scrum Master, or manage both roles at the same time? You know what? We didn't talk a lot about the role Agile in your center of excellence, but now in your center of excellence, do you define different kinds of roles? Business analyst, Scrum Master? Do you have a separate Agile center of excellence?
Yeah, so we have an agile center of excellence. We call it the
Mm.
Lean Portfolio Office,
Ah, okay.
where they determine the methodology, and all the project managers sort of, they are the center of excellence for project managers. Um, but together with our HR partners, we define the roles. So each center of excellence with their leadership structure will define the roles. But the most important thing is really not the title. It's more the role you can fulfill,
Mm.
and we have to wear many hats. If the Scrum Master is not for a week, of course it's going to add a lot of value if you as the BA can fill that role. And if the Scrum Master knows a little bit about BA techniques and handling difficult stakeholders, that type of thing, brilliant. So I wouldn't say transition one into the other unless the person is absolutely passionate about becoming a Scrum Master. Of course, that's fine, but we're moving towards a multi-skilled workforce.
Yep.
So the more you can upskill, and I think within the same discipline, I mean, we're not always all of a sudden going to ask a BA to start writing code unless they have skill. Unless they have the skill, and we do have BAs that can code, but we expect the BA to model a process. And we expect the BA to do a capability map, although in NetBank, that's the responsibility of a business architect. So those roles are really, and that's why it's important for the COEs to align consistently, because then it becomes easier for us to transition and tell our people, wear many hats, it's okay. Go to that COE for that standard and training, come to this COE for that standard and training. But we definitely, I mean, that's the future is multiple skills.
Multi-skilled.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what I hear from, or what I take away from this conversation today, and thank you for your question, Vipin, is how can you be valuable? And so if you've got some skills to be able to do some Scrum mastering or some product ownershipping, that really makes you valuable in any project. All right.
Data
And
analytics, client experience.
yeah, absolutely. All right. We are just about at the end of our time today, and this has been a great conversation. So I want to thank you for your time, Wilna, and for you are always so passionate. And I love talking with you. I know that we'll be talking again. I know you said you're going to retire.
Oh,
I'm not believing
yeah,
that. I'm just not believing that.
I'm counting the days.
I'm sure. I know you've got good things planned, but anyway, hopefully I will see you before you retire. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right. And Koketso, it's always a pleasure. We don't get to chat enough, but I'm so happy that you had Wilna come join us and that you agreed to be the guest co-host today. And yeah, we're looking
Thank you for
forward.
having me.
There's so many things going on in the business analysis space in Africa and Middle East. So if people want to connect with you,
Yeah. So indeed, a lot is happening, and business analysis is seemingly the buzzword in the territory. Interestingly, I was having a conversation about yesterday, actually, about all of the developments that are happening in the Middle East, specifically in Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030, and how business analysis now is one of the skills that's almost at the center of driving the change and innovation around the diversification of the economy there. So yeah, I'd encourage everybody to look out. Business analysis is indeed catalysts for change. And if you are looking for your organization or your team to be part of that change in the community, do reach out to us, and we can work together in creating the magic. Probably one day we can have one of you guys as well here, as Wilna was our guest on the show today.
Yeah, that's right. So it comes with that invitation. So, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, definitely.
Koketso, we will talk soon. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Susan. Cheers.
All right. And so that is it for today's episode. You know, we're going to be back in 2 weeks, and I've got a guest. We're going to be talking about Moscow or bust. That's a little bit of a play on that prioritization technique. But we're going to be talking with Kent McDonald about myths about prioritization. Spoiler alert, it's not just Moscow. So we're going to talk about some other stuff. I hope that you will join us 2 weeks from today. We'll see you then. Thanks. Bye bye.